Juicebox Queefers. It's episode 40, dude. How crazy is that? Guys, on this episode, I'm joined by Wyatt and Luc. Wyatt's been on this podcast a couple times already. This is Luc's first appearance, so welcome him. We had a good time talking about his experiences, Luc's experiences within the protests going around the country right now. He's the president of his own organization out of San Jose called Black Outreach, and we just talked about all things regarding that. And towards the end, we got a little funny. He shared some stories with a couple of hookup stories and stuff like that, because it's not a real Juicebox episode without a hookup story. And I had a really good time, and it was awesome for me to get to meet somebody new on the show and just vibe. And I'm all about good vibes, dude. I'm all about making people feel comfortable when they come on the show. So, without further ado, please welcome Wyatt and Luc. All right, and I do my own intro in the beginning too, so I'll just cut this section out right here.
Okay.
But we'll just jump right into it.
All right.
So,
cool.
Luc, welcome to the podcast, man.
What up, though?
Good to meet you, man.
What's good? What's good?
Wyatt hit me up on, would you text me? Yeah, he texted me
Yeah.
your Instagram link, and he was like, you ever heard of this guy? And I'm like, no, never. And he's like, you should have him on the podcast. I'm like, dude, I'm down.
Yeah.
And he's been on the podcast twice already. And I was like, it makes sense for us to do like a little trio and just see what's going on with you guys.
Yeah.
So you were just saying that you had your little church thing, your church like food thing that you do on Saturdays.
Yeah. So we're not like a church org or anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's the last thing we are. But like, we partnered up with the church. Basically, we saw another org that does like a Sunday egg breakfast thing for people up in Oakland.
Nice.
They're called the Hood Squad in East Palo Alto, and I love brunch. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Brunch is my shit. You know what
I
I mean?
didn't even eat today yet.
Yeah, but feel me, you can still get brunch.
Yeah, seriously,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And for me, it's like, brunch is, it's a little more bougie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a little
get
more
some mimosas and shit. Yeah.
shit like that, or just like pancakes and shit like that. So, we were like, let's do like a brunch, or the closest we could get to a brunch.
For sure.
For the homeless community out there in San Jose. So, every Saturday, the church just ended up having the kitchen that we know people mutually
Right.
that work at the church, Grace Baptist Church in San Jose. At first, I was gonna try and get a restaurant to just let us, cook
it
out
out of there.
of the restaurant
Yeah.
and everything. But as soon as the idea came up, we were able to link up with somebody that worked out of the church. So we cook out of there. We do like 300 to 400 meals right now. We're trying to scale up eventually to 1,000. You know
Nice,
what I mean?
yeah.
But we do pancakes, sausage,
All the good
veggie,
stuff.
egg scramble, potato
Dude, that's
hash.
sick.
You know what I mean?
I think that's dope that you're doing
Yeah.
that. I feel like a lot of because how old are you? 24?
Yup.
Nice. I feel like a lot of maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people don't go out of their way to do that kind of generosity. Like
Yeah.
that's sick that you're doing that.
I certainly don't see it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm probably one of those people that don't give back enough.
Right.
But when I see it, I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
respect for that, dude.
Hey, right on.
Yeah. And
I think what I realized too with that is like there are people out there, you know what I mean? It's just like some of it goes viral and some of it doesn't.
right.
You know what I mean?
That's what's
Yeah.
funny too about like doing stuff, like doing good deeds and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like the people who really mean it at heart probably aren't posting about it.
Yeah.
But it goes
Exactly.
both ways, you know what I mean? Like people are
Yeah.
gonna do stuff and like maybe they just got it on camera and like I'll share this, share the love, like
Right.
I'm doing something nice, maybe this will motivate you to also do something nice.
Right.
So I see both ways of it, but it's clear when people do it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when you put people's like our policy with my org and like the other two we work with, we call our program Feed the Block, but it's like we'll record ourselves making the food, right?
Oh yeah.
We'll record ourselves traveling.
It's like a
to
mini
the spot,
documentary.
but we're not, to let people know what we're doing, but we're not gonna
Keep the mic in front of you.
We're not gonna record, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
ourselves giving the food or like put someone's face on there, because it's like
Right.
if I'm doing bad, you know what I mean, like I've been homeless, like I've lived out of my car. If I'm doing bad, you give me some food, like the last thing I want you to do is
Put a camera in your
put a
face.
camera in my
Yeah.
face
Oh,
and be
yeah.
like, hey man, I got 50,000 followers, they all about to see us. I'm gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
I might
Like,
rob
just
you with
why?
that.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, you know what I mean?
Damn.
So that's just, I feel like there's that kind of like fine line of it. Like, yeah, let people know that you're doing something good, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? But
for sure.
you don't have to show everything. Like, you don't have to put people on blast, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
Most people don't, like, even interacting with some of the homeless people, some of them, they aren't used to really, like, human interact. They're not,
Yeah.
they're
not used to people caring or talking to them.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So some of them are kind of wary, and if they have to see you a couple times before it's like, all
right. They gotta
Exactly,
they gotta earn, or you gotta earn their trust in a way.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
part.
And I feel like at some point too. I mean, I've never experienced. I've been fortunate enough to not ever experience something like that. But I can only imagine people coming up to you. You probably thinking like, oh, what's this person gonna like talk shit to me or like kick me down even further and stuff like that. So I can see how skeptical they can be.
Right.
And every now and then I'll do my like I'll like give somebody like a $5 bill or something like that, and like that's it. That's all I gotta do.
My go-to is like if I go to McDonald's or something, and there's somebody like either a group of people or a couple people that I can see on the side, they're asking for some cash or whatever. I'll just be like, hey, what do you want?
Yeah.
And just get them something. Because, I mean, as much as it sucks to say it, there are a bunch of people that aren't going to use the money for anything, right? So
Yeah.
I'd rather just get them some food, help them out, and I'll take their order too. I'm just like, what do you want? Because I don't want to get them some shit they don't want.
Right.
My buddy Nick just went to In-N-Out, I think like a week ago, and he saw this homeless dude out there. I think it was the one in Redwood City. And he asked the dude what he wanted, and he got him something. And when Nick was out of the drive-thru, dude was gone. So he just had an extra burger, just chilling right there.
I'd have been hot. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, he was. He was like, I fucking bought this guy a burger, and he wasn't even there.
I'd have like drove around looking for
Actually, one time, I work up in Emeryville, so I'm over in Emeryville and Oakland all the time, and I was up there, and I went to a Taco Bell, and I was already a little bit heated because it was still breakfast, and I thought that it wasn't breakfast still, and so I wanted myself a Dorito taco, and anyway.
Taco Bell? Yeah.
This very obviously homeless guy like came up and was like, hey, can you help me out with anything? And I said, well, I'll get you something from the breakfast menu. And so I had put in this like special breakfast order with all this stuff, and then he was like, just get me like whatever's easiest. And I was like, okay. So I get him like the basic breakfast meal, and then they gave it to us, and when I was walking out, I handed him what I thought was his meal, and it was my meal. And honestly, I was a little butthurt about it.
Dude.
Yeah.
And the only reason I was butthurt about it is because I know that he wouldn't have wanted that specific of an order anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But that was like gourmet for him though, dude.
Probably. It had like
you did him a favor.
Some extra meat and potato and stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you guys know each other how?
So we went to Woodside for a year, right, together?
Yeah, senior year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I knew him just from hanging around and, I don't know, talking shit or whatever, but I also used to host these after-school events as part of this little club that I started called Jam Session, and it was basically an open mic. And
comedy.
Once a week or something. So he used to come do stand-up comedy. And
what a G.
Yeah, that shit used to be funny.
It was fucking funny, dude. And the thing is that was funny too is that we had to have advisors, and there was a lot of teachers that used to come, and the principal used to come and shit like that. And he would just go up there and just like rip these jokes that were like, like they were just what you would hear at like a club. And it was like, it was funny as fuck, dude. No censorship, dude. Like
that's
whatever.
Sick.
And what were they gonna do? It was like an open mic, so they never said shit. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
That's
I had
sick,
a great time.
dude.
Never say anything.
Yeah, so we kind of go back to that kind of thing, and then I've been following him because he started rapping and stuff, and obviously I'm a musician, so I've been keeping up with it and just checking in. So we haven't really spoken in years, but
in a minute,
we know
but
we know
it's
each
probably
other.
one of I had this conversation with one of my friends on here also. It's probably one of those friendships where like you don't need to talk every day, like you don't need to talk for a long time, and then you guys just like meet up again, and it's like we picked up right where we left off.
Right.
Yeah.
Those friendships are fucking sick.
We know who each other are, and that's that.
I think that's just like adulthood, what I mean?
Dude.
Like,
for sure.
At a certain point, it's like, okay, like, everybody's doing, getting their shit, going to different places, like
doing different things.
It's not even like I don't mess with you any. Like the people that I used to be on like street with every day. You know what I mean? The same 5 people, like we're still super close, but I'm not with them every day. But they're still my best friends, I'll say. You know what I mean?
I have plenty of friends that I used to skate with that I'm like that too. Like I don't skate anymore. We never hang out anymore. But like when I do see them, it's like we're still boys. It's like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Maybe our lives just went different ways, but we're still at heart like the same dumbasses we were back in the day.
Right.
Like that's how it's always gonna be. Those are the friendships that I value the most.
Right.
And then I feel like people sometimes like they go off and do their own thing, and like some friends will be salty about it. And I have been that way in the past for sure. But as I've gotten older, I for sure realized like, well, that's just how life is. Yeah. Like we're just growing up.
Dude, I don't get salty about anything anymore. I'm trying
not to.
everyone's got their own shit going on. Like you're talking about all the stuff that you're doing and taking care of. Your path the last 6 years maybe since we've really hung out has been utterly and completely different than mine.
Right.
And yet, like
here we are.
I can tell he's the same dude, like I saw him walking up and I was like, oh, what's up, dude? And dude, it is just part of life. I think it's funny when people get butthurt about other people being busy. It's like, dude, I have my thing to do, and that's just that.
Right.
But
that's what it took me. It took me a while to get over or get used to that, and not even that I was like an asshole when I was mad that people were busy, because that's not, because I'm myself busy all the time. So I think what more I'm bummed out about and get salty about, and this isn't even anybody's fault, is a lot of my friends moved out of the area. And I talk about this all the time on the podcast. So, like, they're all moved away. I mean, I'm still here. And it's like, well, fuck, dude. Now we can't see each other. Now we can't hang out enough. So this is where, like, my hang is when I get to have people on the podcast. Yeah. It's like I get to see people chill, talk about shit, whatever. So, and then I've been in the situation where people get salty at me for when I'm busy. And I'm like, I mean, how old are you, bro? Yeah. And then I talk about myself being salty, and it's like, oh, I'm being a fucking hypocrite right there. So I gotta check
life
myself.
Life is about being a hypocrite. We all every single one of us at some point has just projected our own anger on somebody else or something like that. Like
100%.
You're just mad about something that you did, and somebody does something the same, and you see it, and then you get mad at them for it. Yeah. That's like half a life. It's just straight up. It is what it is.
Dude, Luke, I want to ask you, did you ever think about pursuing comedy even more after that? Or no? It's just something funny at the time.
Not like in the I like fell into doing kind of the rap thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I try and like interject comedy into other stuff that I do.
Mm-hmm. Like a hybrid of content.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like even when I perform, like I try and keep like a lighthearted manner.
For sure. Mm-hmm. High energy.
Or like my most recent music video, you know what I mean, where I had like the budget and the means and the idea to do something a little bit more creative. Like that shit was goofy. Like I called it Magical Negro. I had a Harry Potter wand. Like I tried water in a Hennessy, like stupid shit. You know what I mean? So like it's like I still try and keep, like a comedy element into other shit dope. That I do. But I would probably do it. I'm just not like, I know it's like not the 90s anymore. Like you just,
what do you mean?
A club, you just go into like a comedy club and like.
Yeah, it's tough, dude.
There's a Dave Chappelle come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it's really like that anymore. In.
It for sure is.
You think so?
It is. I'm big in the comedy scene, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just it's hard for just anybody to just walk up to a spot. You gotta like plan it out, call ahead, or do whatever the bullshit, but. You should try it again, dude.
Yeah, you should. Honestly.
I might give it a shot.
You should, because I'm actually. So I've done one stand-up set, and it was only 5 minutes. Yeah. But it was the one time where I was like, dude, I gotta try this again, and I was too scared to do it again. And then March happened, so quarantine started. Yeah. So since then I've never, and that was in December, and I did it, and it went way better than I thought. But I just found on I looked up on Google, but. It was like a Reddit thread, and they were saying if you look up Comedy Network thing on Facebook, there's a whole fucking schedule of all these different comedy open mics that are going on, like socially distant here there's like San Francisco, Santa Cruz, somewhere in these areas, and I might hit him up. I think I'm finally gonna.
I've been telling this guy because he only went up.
I might do it with you.
Yeah,
dude, we should
I'll
all
hit
go.
You up.
Yeah,
we should all go. I've thought about telling jokes.
Yeah, dude.
I don't give a fuck. I do so much stuff on stage that like being on stage and telling jokes. I mean, to me, I think I'd be a little bit more scared doing that than playing music because I don't have any like buffer. Like it's literally just my voice.
Right.
It's not even me singing. It's literally just my voice, like talking. Yeah. But I've thought about some stuff. But I think I saw his. So I've seen you do it, obviously, and I've seen you via video do it.
Right.
And
you only saw like 10 seconds of it.
The thing that you have that I recognize in you all the way back in high school is just the fact that when you get on the stage, it looks like you're supposed to be there. Like both of you have that, and it's a very like interesting quality, and I don't exactly know what it is, but I know when I see it, like, oh, that guy looks like he's supposed to be there. Like
you know what's funny actually too is because I was going to open up that set with having a joke about it being my first time doing stand-up, which reminds me of the time I lost my virginity.
Mm-hmm.
I had to change that joke because I was listening, when I was flying down, I was listening to another podcast by comedians, and they were saying, never open up your first open mic with saying that this is your first time. So I took that out. I had to take that out of the joke. At the end of it, I was talking, because how that place works is like there's a 1 hour window with you and like however many comics, and then that hour's over. So when you guys are done, you all leave at the same time and just talk or whatever. So I walked out and I was like, yeah, this is like actually my first time doing stand up. And they're like, really? And like there was like, I guess one of the guys said that there was a cadence to my voice where like I didn't seem like shaky and I didn't seem like it was my first time. And I was like, okay, maybe I am going to try this again. Because I was like, that's pretty cool. Because it was hard for me because it wasn't like a comedy club. It was like a club specifically for comics trying their material. Yeah. So trying to make another comic laugh in itself is just fucking a disaster.
Right.
It's so hard versus a drunk mom at a comedy club where she's gonna laugh at everything. Right. So it's tough.
Anytime that you're in a place and you're doing the thing and everybody else in the audience is supposed to also be doing the thing. Like I was performing at a little club down in Orange County, and the only other people there, aside from like a couple of my buddies and like families, were the other people that were playing. Yeah. So it's like, you know, you're trying to play music, but everybody else is also trying to play their music. So there's this weird thing where some of the people just got off stage, some of the people are waiting to go back on stage or whatever, and like, you know, you're trying to perform and like get people hyped and stuff, and there's all this just kind of like the energy's always crazy, but it's cool when you're able to like get people in the craft to fuck with you, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
I remember you had this joke. This is the one joke that I specifically remember because it was so fucking funny to me. Because keep in mind, again, this is after school at high school, and he just had this bit where he was like, "How come drug dealers always test the product with their pinky? Like, why wouldn't they go with something bigger than that?" You remember this bit? You remember that? Dude, and he went on with that for a while.
And this is in front of the principal and shit.
Yeah, like
that's awesome.
Dude, it was like the counselors were there.
That's
like,
hilarious.
Dude, it was so fucking funny. I had such a good time doing those events, and it's funny because I actually like forgot that I even did that.
Yeah,
like because I had to start this whole club and get all, but I just like I forgot, and then I like saw him again the other day, and I was like, dude, that's so funny.
One thing that was I wish that is something like you had started had like. I feel like you could have built it into something like
definitely. I wish I started earlier too.
Year. By the way, I'm hitting this on camera. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Oh, I was working it in to call you out on it.
Well, here we are. I was supposed to have quit, and I stopped quitting. One thing I want to say really quick is your events at the Fox Theater with Low Key Lifestyle. Mm-hmm. When this all pandemic bullshit's over, I want to this is going to be a fucking stretch. I'm going to take some time figuring this out, but that's like a perfect place for stand-up comedy.
Absolutely.
Or like a mixed event with like doing stand-up and then your show, or like you being the DJ and then it being a comedy show, something like that. I want to do something like that. I really want to put on an event like that. I've been thinking about it, and I was like, dude, that would not be a terrible idea, because we know a lot of people that would be down to go. Like, there's no problem with that.
Yeah,
like,
right. People want to get outside.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially if that was like one of the first events that happened. So I would have to like get the fucking ball rolling on this shit fast. Because like,
pretty sick.
If something like that came out, the only problem is, which is why I want to start going. I just requested to join this comedy group. Mm-hmm. If I were able to go to some of the shows and like meet some of the people, I'd be able to put together like a fucking good group of people that would be down to do that.
Yeah.
Where I wouldn't like have to really pay them. It's just them just doing comedy.
Yeah.
I'd pay for the cost of all that shit, but in terms of like having people come and do shit or whatever, you could try stand up again.
Right, there we go.
You could do both, actually. Sick, he could do stand up and then he could do a set right after.
You guys have to collab.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah,
man.
we should.
Yeah,
we definitely.
You guys haven't. I'm surprised you guys haven't talked about doing that yet.
Oh, on the music hype?
Yeah.
I feel like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm really sporadic about like how I've dropped music. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll take like a year. Like if you look at my music videos, like it's like a year gap between all of them. You know what I mean? Just because life and everything and working and all that. Like,
are you still writing? Because it's only just music videos. So are you still like actually writing new songs?
Currently, I don't have anything that I've been writing. Like, honestly, like since like the George Floyd shooting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got involved in like the grassroots movement in San Jose. Now I'm the president of an organization down there, you know what I mean? So, and trying to build that up and doing all the different stuff, like even aside from the food program, like now we have a Wi-Fi program for some of the students.
Yeah.
K through 12 college vocational
Like the
schools.
is that like low income?
Yeah, anybody that just needs help
Yeah.
in the area getting Wi-Fi, like we have a GoFundMe, you know, and we get donations and everything already for our pancake brunch and just our other operations. But we started to do this too, so now we're basically trying to. We looked into a couple different options.
Yeah.
You know, the school districts have been passing out like these Wi-Fi hotspots.
Okay.
But they got a certain amount. They equally distributed them between all the schools. So some schools, you know what I mean, they have kids that didn't really need it, and then other schools really did. So they have kids on wait lists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's also just stragglers. People just fall through the cracks for whatever reason of miscommunication. So, you know, we're just offering another alternative. So we're going to be starting on Monday. I'm going to be contacting all the different families. But we'll be doing we'll cover at least 3 months of Xfinity service for people.
That's pretty sick.
That's badass.
You know, that funding thing, the way that happens, it happens with schools so bad, but that's like one of the root causes of so many issues is where they'll try to like equally distribute things that don't need to be equally distributed. Like they talk about, okay, if we could just get some of the money from this and put it over here. But no, it's what it really is that the money's all here, and then instead of branching it out equal, just be like, listen, this particular school, as we know, has plenty of money from all the other donations that they've gotten. This particular school doesn't. So this particular school can get more of the resources. Like it's as simple as that. There's a pool of money up top.
I think it's
you know,
it's just the person that is assigned to do something like that doesn't want to do it. It's just a little more work that just hasn't been put in.
There's a lot of politics and bureaucracy that come into play.
It is difficult to choose who deserves more resources. Like that's a hard thing to do. It's not like it's just a simple like, well, if they live here, they need to get more. You know, like if you have $1 million,
if you have to back that up, my bad. But if you have to back that up, say in a press conference, if you're that person, right, and it's like, well, why are you putting more money into this area than this area? You know what I mean? Even if it is an area that deserves more politically, right? When it comes to that arena, it's so easy to twist that and manipulate that. So it's a lot easier to just be like...
but it shouldn't be that way, you know?
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, but again, that's just
that's
politics.
How it is.
That's human nature. You know what I mean? It's like
that
even
sucks, man.
Politicians or anybody in this, even me now being in this sphere, it's like you see things and it's like, all right, how can I take advantage of that? You know, like... Recently, I just found out like San Jose's mayor, right, because of a protest that just happened, right? He's got my org and our sister org, and specifically me, like on a watch list. You know what I mean?
Really? What the
fuck? And he's doing a threat assessment on me right now. You know. And
what does that mean, though? Does that mean that you're being watched?
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
So, I mean,
dude, I hope he watches the podcast.
But hold on,
I hope so.
What's the reason? Because his whoever works for him, do they notify you that that's happening?
No,
or do
reporters,
you find
reporters have told me I'm in contact with a lot of different organizations and different individuals, you know what I mean? Just and once you're in this kind of realm and sphere, you know, you meet a lot. I've met a lot of different people, so you know, I get told things. So I think it was Friday before last, we organized a protest. It started at City Hall. We took it to San Pedro Square, shut down San Pedro Square. And then the protest ended up, it ended up at the mayor's house, you know. And
there's
bada bing, bada boom, you know, certain things happen. I didn't do anything personally, you know what I mean? But certain things happen. But basically, the mayor's it's all online. Like it was really big in San Jose. But like his house got spray painted. You know, and you know.
So when that's happening, like if you're the leader of that, you're obviously not aware of everything that's going on,
right?
If you knew that was happening, would you have probably fucking yelled the shit out of those people? Because you know that's not right.
So my thing is, the thing is for me is there's certain things like I'm not gonna do it myself,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you're not
going to
stop
it, I'm
anybody
not
from
mad
doing
at it.
Okay,
you know
okay,
what I
okay.
mean? I think what goes on with a lot of the crazier stuff we see in the movement, right, is, you know, it seems like it's wild, right?
Mhm.
But what I try and put myself in the opposition's shoes, right? So imagine you're a bully, you know what I mean? Bully smacking you upside the head over and over. If all you do is say, "Hey man, I don't like that," why would I stop?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why would I stop doing it? And then if you tell your friend, like, "Hey man, join in with me in saying that we don't like this shit,"
Yeah.
it's like, if I'm a bully, I'm like, "All right,
Yeah.
okay," you know what I mean? And then it's like, "Hey, we don't like what's going on. We gonna have a slam poetry festival."
Yeah.
If I'm a politician, I'm like,
Slam poetry.
Yeah.
"Cool."
Dude, if the one thing that I have learned though about the way that all this shit goes is that, because I've had buddies get in trouble for stupid things that, frankly, from a moral standpoint, I supported everything that they did, right? But what I've learned is you always want to be separated enough from the stupid shit that you can like come out at this sort of like legal high ground. Because morally, we can go back and forth on that all day. That's not what I'm. But for me, if you're trying to forward a movement, like the best you can do to avoid all of the other distraction, the farther your movement's going to go without people fucking with you. You know what I mean? And that's where I think, you know, what you're saying is like, yeah, I saw it, or I didn't see it, or if I did, like, you know, it's not me. Like, you know, people are angry and they want to fucking do what they want to do, and I get it. But, you know, the farther you can take it without all of people like trying to stop you, like the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that's, I think,
definitely.
yeah.
And that's something, you know, again, stepping into this arena, you know, is something that we, you know, I've made myself aware of. Everybody in my organization is aware of, is like the what comes with this, right? So it's like, as soon as I was told, hey, they're watching you, I was like, I already know. You know what I mean? I expected that, you know, because there's dozens and dozens of organizations in San Jose. But we're the you know, so when the reporter asked him, she told me, when she asked him, you know, why do you watch them? He's like, do you think they're a threat, like a violent threat? And he's like, no, we don't think they're a violent threat. She's like, well, why monitor them? And he was like, well, you know,
in case it turns into something that's a threat, a possible threat. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He said, you know, the paramilitary gear and all that, you know, frightens them or whatever. But I think what he has to understand is, you know, those first few days, like, San Jose PD messed some people up. Like, I've met the people that, you know, got his groin, you know, ruptured. You know what I mean? From getting shot. Like, people got messed up. A girl, I met a girl, she almost got hit in the face. They hit her phone.
So many videos on Twitter.
You know what I mean? And so we weren't organized at that time. You know what I mean? I mean, there were organizations. We were organized. There were organizations down there, but like not to fend ourselves from that. So like my org and another org, Hero Tent, we all went up to Portland weekend of day 60.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? And so they went up there to deliver supplies. They built shields, full body shields. You know what I mean? Delivered N95 masks, full gas masks. You know what I mean, for dealing with tear gas and everything. And you know, we went up there with full gear. You know what I mean? Military grade helmets, gas masks, full.
Ready
you know
to
what
go.
I mean? Bulletproof. Ready, you know what I mean?
Jesus Christ.
Full body shields, and like, it's crazy there. It's the craziest experience of my life.
I mean, I've just seen videos on Twitter. That's all I've seen.
And it's exactly like that. Like,
it's probably worse, but
it's
real life. Twitter is just, you're just seeing it on a screen. Being actually in the battlegrounds is like game changer, I bet.
So
it's terrifying.
You mentioned before the podcast that you're kind of separated from the BLM movement, and you guys aren't like a part of that. Is there like a specific reason? Do you have any like kind of comment you want to talk about it?
I wouldn't say necessarily that we're not part of the BLM movement. I would just say we're not BLM
itself, right?
You know, one, right? We were called BLM San Jose just because every kind of grassroots, a lot of the grassroots orgs that popped up in different cities, just, it's the movement, right? Yeah. That's the slogan. So it's BLM Los Gatos, BLM Cupertino, you know what I mean? Things like this. But, you know, moving forward, we decided, like, okay, we want to be our own nonprofit. You know, we're in the process of getting our 501c3 status. That's
what's up.
And so, you know, there's legal ramifications of us calling ourselves Black Lives Matter, whatever, without being a chapter of theirs. But also, looking into some things of the actual organization is stuff that I personally wouldn't want myself affiliated with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm not gonna go fully into detail.
That's fine.
You know what I mean? Feel free to go and do your own research on it. But again, for me, I'm all about like I'd rather not associate myself with something that I don't know everything about.
Yeah.
Or what y'all doing. You know what I mean? Because if something comes up, I want to be like, well, I ain't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So our org, like we're born from the BLM movement, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we're part of the black movement.
Yeah, that's the root.
Yeah.
That's the root that your organization came from.
It feels to me like your organization and the people that you're working with and the other organizations you're working with, it just feels much more pragmatic and like you have a kind of concrete, like this is what we're doing and this is our goal. Whereas the Black Lives Matter thing, like there's a lot of kind of uncertainty in terms of like what exactly they're asking for. And I think, in the research that I've done, and this has come up in a ton of like other podcasts that people are doing, but they talk about how the leaders of it are all like these kind of Marxist studying people and whatever. Frankly, I don't care that much because I know that the majority of people that are in the Black Lives Matter movement or that are protesting on behalf of it are not thinking about being a Marxist or whatever the fuck. Like they're just thinking about trying to support like the black movement, which like for sure. And but anyway, it seems like what you're doing has kind of like this is how we can help and this is where we can go with it. Right. Whereas the other stuff, like you just never really know. And also I see your point in terms of like if Black Lives Matter goes rogue and like some crazy shit happens and people start dying and stuff like that, like, which is, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. If that happens, I see where you don't really want to be like, yeah, that was us. You know what I mean? Like,
right. I mean, at the end of the day, no, like if it comes to like, and we are, people are killing each other in Portland.
Yeah.
In Portland, I was up there. It's not black people in Portland. That's
what I'm seeing.
Irish people. And they go hard, right?
Yeah.
Like they're out there like gangster. You know what I mean?
Are there like people on both sides like that? Or
so there's multiple factions, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got people who are pro BLM, right? But then you have the Boogaloo Boys who are also out here. Actually,
is that where Antifa's at too? Like, there's a lot of Antifa there. Or is that somewhere else?
Antifa is everywhere, right? Antifa is a lot like Black Lives Matter, right? Black Lives Matter. The reason you don't see leadership from it, right, is it's literally just a movement. But the reason that it has to be like that, especially for a black movement, is because this generation of black people, right, everybody in their 20s, mid to late 30s, right, we saw our parents and grandparents' generation of black leaders, no matter what, whether they were peaceful or not, they either got killed, exiled, or you know what I mean, in prison. Yeah. Right. And some people do, but most people don't want to be a martyr. And you know what comes with that. So again, like me going into this, like I know that I'm putting myself at permanent risk, lifetime risk. I went up there with people, to Portland. 3 white people, you know what I mean, were fighting for us. They you know what I mean, they got arrested got their ass beat. They have federal cases now. You know what I mean?
What do they have a case for?
For assault on a federal agent.
Yeah. Wow.
But they got their ass beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you could see how it goes down out there, like it's literally, it looks like what we would send the full force of our military to stop in another country. But in Portland.
Yeah.
You know what I
crazy.
mean? It's wild.
One thing I want to ask, I haven't been to any of the protests. I've seen obviously a lot of stuff, but I was just thinking like, I think one of the arguments against a lot of the like super powerful police presence is that it escalates the situation. Because if you see the cops roll up and they've got, their big ass guns with them, some of them are literally carrying guns instead of just having on their holster. They have riot gear, they have all this stuff. Like, obviously the tension in the air, I'm assuming, is going to have to be a lot thicker than it was before they showed up. Do you ever feel like the fact that, you guys are rolling in with all this stuff too, like, is that just another way to escalate the tension, or is it really? Because I haven't been there. Yeah. Is it really that thing of where they just don't fuck with you guys at all, and if you're there, they're gonna go after you? Like, is that how it is?
I think specifically in San Jose, right? Every city's a little different, right? Specifically in San Jose, for the past, I want to say, month and a half, 2 months, right? The police haven't directly showed up to things, but that's because they caught a lot of flack. For that first week, they were out there, you know. They thought they were like NYPD, like, or LAPD, like they were out there messing people up. You know what I mean? And also recently, there's a lot of other stuff, you know, about that's kind of come out of the woodworks about SJPD. So even the chief is stepping down, you know, or he's retiring in December, but he's trying to avoid all the bullshit. You know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff coming out. So the police haven't recently been coming to things as much in San Jose
with like heavy force.
They're not. So we did a protest a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, at Santana Row. And it was controversial because Santana Row is considered private property, right? It is private property.
Yeah.
And so we posted the flyer, and everybody started hitting us up. Property management from Santana Row is hitting us up, like, because we went around posting flyers on Santana Row and everything.
Yeah.
Because we don't give a damn, right?
Yeah.
But they were like, it's private property, so you can't protest here legally. And I'm like, I don't know the law. You know what I mean? And it's from a ruling in 1979 in Campbell, actually, at Prune Yard Shopping Center. But it was some high schoolers. They wanted to protest. They wanted to protest a store, you know what I mean? And Prune Yard Shopping Center is private property. But because it was determined under your First Amendment right, you can protest on private property as long as it's been open to the public for commercial purposes.
Wow.
Right?
That's awesome.
You know what
That's
I mean?
good to know.
So, and then it's like, well, if this is private property, do you have streets here? So do I not have to obey street laws, California street laws?
Right.
Can I just
That's
do
a good
donuts
point.
right here?
Yeah.
Did you know, actually, I wish we had Jamie to fact check, but there's a rule where, you know how they have stop signs in parking lots?
Mm-hmm.
If the parking lot is part of private property, which most parking lots are, you don't have to stop at the stop sign because there's no actual legal ruling.
Yeah, but I mean,
that you're supposed to stop at the stop sign.
Still stop at the stop sign.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but it's those technical. It's that stuff that gets you off.
It's the technicalities.
You know. And it wasn't until my bad. It wasn't until we dropped a video explaining that to people that people were even willing to come out to the protest. You know what I mean? Because they felt like it was illegal.
Yeah.
We shut down all of Santana Row piece by piece. You know what I mean? The police. They had drones flying over. They had they have these type of drones that like go over an area and ping phones and try and see who's sending out, you know, to figure out who the leaders are. They do that a lot in Portland. I found out in Portland when I was out there, they'll go to your house through using Find My iPhone and tell you to shut the fuck up with that shit.
Really?
You know what I mean, yes.
Fuck.
Straight up, or they'll figure out.
Yeah,
your,
that's what
routine.
That's why they were saying make sure you have like your face covered and everything, right? Because they will find a way to find you.
Dude, that's fucking annoying. Well, here's my take on the whole thing is like how many people that go to these protests are like causing all the problems that you see on like Fox News and all that stuff. Like the people that are like, oh, well, these aren't peaceful protesters and that, like the percentage of people that are fucking around has to be pretty low, right?
I would say it kind of, again, it depends on where you're at and who's putting it together, right? And also how militarized the police in the area have become, right? In Portland, every night it's at least 1,000 people in front of the federal building. They have an entire encampment outside of it. They have teams. They have people with buzzsaws. They're trying to burn that thing down.
So is that the goal? Just burn it down?
To destroy it.
What happens then?
Listen to us. Maybe you'll listen, right?
That's a good point.
Because, like I said earlier, you know what I mean? I've done the sitting at the table thing with them. You know what I mean? I've sat in city council meetings with the mayor. You know what I mean? A lot of people in and this is every city, but I'm just talking about San Jose. Thousands of people sat in on the Zoom meetings and called specifically for police reform in San Jose. Yeah. 45% of San Jose's annual budget goes to the police department, right? It's a $500 million budget.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they also say San Jose is the safest city in America. So
do they say that?
They say that. That's what's going on. What's going on?
If I could, let's like step back for a sec on. So you live in San Jose. I've dealt with the San Jose police before.
Mm-hmm.
I've dealt with Santa Clara County police before. The guys that I dealt with were black dudes at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make a difference in terms of like how they react to like something that you're doing? Like, do they treat you differently if they're a black guy versus a white guy? Are you seeing that kind of stuff, or is it just
no, not at all.
Really?
I think again that uniform is a uniform,
Mm-hmm.
just like it's a us against them thing,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just like how it probably is in the military. It's like this
Mm-hmm.
is, you know what I mean, at the end for anything, you know what I mean, just like when you put on your football uniform or your basketball uniform, it's like this is us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, dude, when you think about it, like take the LA riots in the 90s.
Yeah.
Was it 90s or late 80s?
90s, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, even then, black cops, I mean, even movies like, I mean, they're movies, but Boys in the Hood, Don't Be a Menace to Society or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, those movies, the black cops are still just,
Yeah.
they don't they don't care that you're black. They're
Yeah.
a cop. That's, like, what they know. That's what they've trained for. Like, if for whatever reason they think that you're going to be a threat to them, whatever. Like, like, none of that even matters.
Yeah. I've been trying to figure out my stance, like a kind of straight up opinion on the whole like defund the police or whatever it all that other stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is like I have friends that are police officers. They're not my best friends, but I have friends.
Right.
I also am one of those people that is kind of like fuck the cops because I haven't had good experiences with the cops.
Right.
And I know plenty of people that haven't. But there's also that kind of thing of we need it for something because there's enough shit that goes on. It's not like if you just took away the authority that all of the bad stuff would stop. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know where I stand. My thing, I think, is more on like reallocating the funds and making sure that, because I know that there's a bunch of idiots that are police officers.
Yeah.
And I want better police officers. I want everybody to be able to call the police knowing that if they show up, they're going to do the right shit.
Right.
That's what I want.
Right.
But I don't know exactly where I stand on like everything because I do recognize for sure the us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
But I think that can happen with like anything you're doing. Like I think at a certain point, because I used to do live sound at concerts and festivals.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would have to do sometimes is get people to not jump on the stage. Because we would be at a smaller place, the stage would be as high as that dresser over there. I just called you out for being in your bedroom. And and somebody would try and jump up on the stage, and I would be like, dude, get the fuck off the stage. Like, you can't do that. Like,
right.
And so then I recognized just in the 4 or 5 minutes that was happening, like, I'm on this side of things where I'm dealing with setting up the speakers and making sure the lights work and making sure the band is happy and making sure everybody that's in the audience gets the show they deserve.
Right.
And then there's people that are being idiots.
Right.
Now I wasn't mad at those people really because they're just drunk and trying to do stupid stuff, but it's kind of like that. I recognize that feeling. And so when I see things happening with the police now, especially the videos that have come out recently, I don't have excuses for those. That's fucking ridiculous. And they've been coming out. The funny thing that too, I'll take a sidestep, is that those videos have been out for 20 years. Like since the internet has been a thing,
yeah.
Videos of cops beating the fuck out of people and especially black people are everywhere. They've been everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting to see that it exploded now. But back to my point is just like, I think if we had cops that were trained very, very strictly, we would be in a pretty good place. And something like when you would go to your protest, like they would recognize, okay, we want to not, we don't want this to escalate the same way that if something happens with them, they don't want it to escalate, but they have a point to make. So so at the end of the day, like their job is not to stop your point. Yeah. Their job is to make sure that while you're making your point, no one fucking kills each other. That's pretty much it. And it should be that way, but it's not, right? So
so I got not a lot, but I got a little bit of backlash for a section of a podcast that I did with my friend Brandon, who's trying to be a firefighter. Mm-hmm. We talked about this on there, and we talked about, he wanted to know my thoughts on defunding the police and whatever. And my opinion on this whole situation, which let me just start off by saying that I think one of the big reasons why it's gotten so bad in terms of protesting is because there is a select few of people who probably weren't even black, they're probably white, who started all of the destruction with everything that's burning down. And that was probably one of the main reasons why police got so, like, they had all this gear on, they had these tear gas guns, they had whatever they had, tasers, whatever. I think that's where that began to escalate, which was like the Minneapolis. It was Minneapolis, right, where they started like looting and doing all that shit. Like once that all started coming out is when police started getting like serious about how they're going to go about protests. And then they just started thinking, okay, if that's how that protest was, think about how protests are going to be all around the country. Yeah. So I think that's why it got super serious, and they started getting like crazy with shooting people or like tear gassing people and like doing all this ridiculous
rubber
shit.
Bullets and shit.
Yeah. So I think that's why it's gotten so bad, which was when you were asking him about, does it seem like a threat when the protesters are coming geared up? Mm-hmm. That's where I think people are going wrong, is because, I mean, I see why they're coming geared up now, because obviously people are getting shot with rubber bullets. Of course they're going to want to protect themselves.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I think at some point it would have never gotten there if those first couple of protesters who like just didn't destroy anything, like if it was strictly peaceful, probably never wouldn't even got that bad in the first place.
Who knows?
I don't mean to cut you guys off, but like it's always been that serious, right?
Okay.
So like even when I talk about our parent, like, earlier when I said like relatives. Our parents and what they saw, you know what I mean, with black leaders. My mom is my aunt, right, is the same age as the first black girl to go to an integrated school. Mm-hmm. Same age. Wow. Right? My aunts and uncles, right, were teenagers and adults in Detroit when the 1960s race riots happened, and they had tanks in the street and they were throwing dynamite and stuff like that. So like the response to black protest has always been extreme violence. Even in the 80s, right? Police were looking for some black leaders of an organization in Philly, and they couldn't find them specifically, so they just bombed the whole neighborhood. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like at a certain point, what I think America as a whole has to realize is like when you've inflicted so much. We look at, even with 9/11 happening yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. When you look at every action has a reaction, right? So you're going to get extremists, right? When you've gone to a region, right? Say I'm a child from a small village of 200 people. Yeah. Out of nowhere, I hear the sound of an airstrike. My whole village gets bombed. 5 of us survive. I know nothing else, right? A group of other people that's happened to that want revenge take me in. What else is my purpose in life going to be if that's all I know? Is revenge against this ogre, right? 15,000 miles away, right? That's done this to me, right? I have nothing else, right? And that drove people to, you know what I mean? We have to deal with acts of terror from people flying from the other side of the world, right? So when you look at the same things being done, like the tear gassing and the sicking dogs on people, the blatant murder, right, that you just see happen, right? Jacob Blake, right? He's walking to his car, right? No matter what, the man was shot 7 times in the back, point blank, right? Yeah. You don't even have to do that. Even with Breonna Taylor, you know what I mean? She's asleep in the bed. The boyfriend gets up. He sees. Mind you, these aren't police officers dressed as police officers. They're dressed in regular clothes. He fires a warning shot at their feet, right? He knows to do that. Okay. They shoot her in the bed 8 times. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's at a certain point, right? We're talking about the same thing that's been done to other people by American power, right? Mm-hmm. In other countries, right? We've done it here on the home front. Right. So that's also why there's this innate fear of what if these people rise up. Right. So that's why things like the Black Panthers. Right. The reason we can't open carry in California is because the Black Panthers went up to the Capitol in Sacramento. And that was the first time the NRA even went in on, no, let's ban the guns. Right. Because it's that fear of these people might want more than just equality. They might go out looking for revenge, right? And if a racial war like that were to happen in the United States, right? Oh, man. Nobody would win that. Yeah. Nobody really would win. Yeah. But it would get so ugly, right? It would be the fall of an empire. Yeah. And it would leave us open to be overtaken by foreign powers. So that's part of also why there's this fear of we have to shut that shit down for them anytime they see it. So that's why Fred Hampton, right? He's 21 years old. He's talking that shit. Even though he's 21, he's talking that shit. This is back in the day to where he's getting everybody together. He's getting the white folks and the Latinos and the black people. They're like, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, right, not everybody wants to talk about this, but it's more a class thing, right? It's at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Eisenhower said, if I can convince the poorest white that he's still above the richest black, right, I can control all of them. And that's absolutely right. If I can keep somebody down, right, and still have them think that I'm above somebody and give them somebody to feel that they're superior to, even though I'm doing you just as bad, maybe even worse, right? You know, I can control everything. So even like the police, right? The police, the reason why there's this battle against the police is they're the arm of the system of oppression, right? So if you even look at like even the criminality aspect of it, right? When slavery ended, if you look at the verbiage of the 13th Amendment, it says slavery, you cannot be a slave in the United States unless you're a criminal.
Really?
Right?
Does it say that?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Read the 13th Amendment. Like you talk about your friend being a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
Part of the reasons why the fires are so out of control right now is because California heavily relies on prison labor, right, for their firefighting. People that they pay less than $1 a day, right? They have them learn maybe a year's worth of things in about 2 months. I have friends in the fire camp, right?
Yeah.
Those prisoners, right, a lot of them had to get released or they're quarantined still inside of their prisons. We've spoken to some people in some of these prisons. They're in areas where the fires are so bad, people got evacuated, but they're still in there, only getting fed cheese. But the government can't use their labor right now to fight the fires, and that's part of why they've gotten not so out of control, because we don't have enough firefighters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I just saw something. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I think I just saw something from Gavin Newsom where he's expunging the records of inmates who are fighting those fires right now.
Yeah, because before, right, even if you did fire camp as an inmate for however many years, once you got out, you weren't legally able to become a firefighter, even if you had all that experience.
Right.
But they're doing that now as a cop-out because they absolutely need these firefighters.
Right.
Like, bad right now. So they're like, okay, let's, you know what I mean? It's like the Roman Empire calling on the veterans of the war, and they're like, we need you now. So it's kind of it's a little bit too, it's needed, but it's a little bit too little too late.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that should have been happening.
Before you go, I just want to say something. You're very well spoken.
Hey, right on.
And I appreciate that a lot.
Right on.
And I think that a lot of people are going to really enjoy this because there's so much information that you're aware of that I'm not, obviously. Like I always say on this podcast because it's semi-comedy podcast, but I enjoy these conversations because this shit's important,
right?
And people need to hear it. So thank you for being on, dude. I love this. This is great.
Yeah,
and we're not even close to ending. I just want to say that before he continues.
Good. Right on for having me. It's just important because again, like this filming is not even like there are certain things that it just has certain air has to be cleared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like certain things, like I get because a lot of this stuff I didn't know, right? Until I lived in my own bubble at a certain point in my life too, where I didn't realize, and then it's like you look into things and it's like, oh,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I understand the everything you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I understand that. But and sometimes what I've noticed is in this what's going on, it's so easy to just start yelling at each other.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I was at a protest in Los Gatos, my org, and a bunch of other ones, and there was Blue Lives Matter opposition, right? And everybody was just yelling at each other, right? Finally, I got a chance to speak to their leader. And I'm like, everybody, just chill out. Say your piece. You know what I mean? Let him say his thing, right? Because at the end of the day, we gotta talk, right? So he's like, yeah, I completely agree. George Floyd, you know what I mean? He said, officer that has 17 citations shouldn't be able to operate, you know, as a police officer. And I believe he should be in jail. And I'm like, so what are you
fighting for?
What's going on here? And then he was like, I don't believe in reparations. I'm like, that don't got nothing to do with what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
You know?
So the thing about the George Floyd thing that, like, the positivity in it, of all the negativity, the positivity in it is that from everyone that I talked to, I never heard anyone say what happened was correct. Like nobody was like, yeah, that looks fine. That looks like it's protocol. Like nobody.
Yeah.
So I think that it was a kind of a perfect storm of that moment where everyone can get together. But then I'm wondering, like, you know, it gets to a point where if there's enough people that are protesting on one side, then the other people on the other side just want to protest back. Yeah. And, like, I think with the George Floyd thing, like, that's a really good point, and I'm glad that you were able to actually talk to him and, like, have that conversation. But I'm wondering, like, with these Blue Lives Matter people, what's their goal in saying, like, we want to be here too? Is it just because of the, like, defund the cops part, or is it because there's such a big movement against the police? Like, I've always just wondered, like, what do you think?
I think it's kind of just like a combination of a lot of different things, like what you're talking about, and probably some, you know, unknown, unspoken things for every individual. I mean, there's counter protesters to everything, you know, and even leading like adding on to what you said about, you know, what happened with George Floyd. The reason I believe that this became so big and it's still going on, right, is because of timing, right? So this happened in the middle of COVID. We're all at home. Right, with nothing but time on our hands. Most people, right, I've seen, like, these videos aren't new. Like, you know, we've been, like you said, we've been seeing Trayvon Martin, Freddie Gray, Oscar Grant. We've been seeing this. We're the same age. We grew up watching this shit as the internet got bigger and bigger. And as things get more viral, those videos got more viral. Yeah. Right? So this wasn't new for us. But this time, right, a whole sphere of people, right, that normally wouldn't even take the time to, because, you know, I work, you know what I mean? So a lot of times I see these videos, I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. Here we go again. Yeah. Right? And you gotta pick up the kids. You gotta go to work. Right. You gotta go to school. You gotta do your homework. So people had time to sit down and watch. It's fucked up, but had time to watch a 9-minute video of a man getting murdered. Right. And then had time to be outraged about it. But so you have black people that are pissed off about that, right? But we're also in the middle of a pandemic. Right? So you got millions of people that are unemployed, right? Cooped up in their houses, right? As soon as they took March 17th, when they said they were shutting shit down, I'm like, oh, I give it 4 months before niggas start rioting. That's what I said. I'm like 4 months, people gonna lose their minds. Yeah. It's gonna be crazy. And I'm like, once the white people get mad, it's bad. That's what I always say. Once the white people get mad too, it's bad. And that's what's going on now. Yeah. Is, you know, so on top of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? You've got this whole other issue that would have people rioting regardless. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? So people are without. They gave people $1,200. A lot of people didn't get it. Some people got unemployment, but I've read stories because of how some people's hours are. There are some people getting as little as $5 every 2 weeks. Yeah. And, you know, now we're like kind of in this limbo, right, where the rest of the world kind of figured out and they're like, fuck us. Yeah. And we're still halfway, ipske, bipske, kind of still in quarantine, you know, and it's like it's this fluctuating thing, and we're trying to forget about it, but it's still going on, and people still aren't working. Like, there's no club scene. I'm a bartender, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, the club scene is gone. You know what I mean? Now it's just underground clubs. It's like, is this an Airbnb? Like, people invite me to shit. I'm like, I want to go to that. Like, you know, so like people have to. I mean, that's why I said, like, in Portland, there's the Boogaloo Boys, right? Yeah. Where they're not pro Black Lives Matter, but they're anti-federal government. So they fight the feds out there, but they also just don't like the BLM people. Then you have like the Jesus freaks that come down from Seattle, and they're like, anything about Jesus, yes. And then if you say anything not that, they pepper spray you. Oh God! And they wear like Hawaiian shirts. Like it's some crazy shit. So it's like aside from like BLM, like there's so many other different factions right now that just in every city are just like out there. Yeah. And it's like we're gonna see some shit because regardless of whatever, anytime like Black Lives Matter might die down or whatever, it's still people are unemployed, which has always led to riot. Right. You know, and now it's like a mass thing all over the country. And even with Trump's people, right? Some of Trump's people are leaving him because they're like, what's going on? Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, like, they're out in the street, too. So now people are just mad. And it's like some places have figured out where to direct their anger. So, you know, some places, I think initially, too, because, again, things weren't, like, organized. Like, Yeah, we gonna hit up the Gucci store. We gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but then it became, you saw things like, you saw Minnesota, right? It's like they burned down the police precinct. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And the thing is like, that is like taking down the semblance of power to where it's like, you're not listening, listen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Portland trying to take down the courthouse. It's like, you're not, like, I had a slam poetry festival.
Yeah.
I told you through poetry, you didn't listen.
Right.
We wrote you letters. We voted, right? We did all these different things, and you took a knee, you put a fist in the air, you put a poster in your window, but you kept doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only do that for oh so long before, if we just look throughout history, you know what I mean, before people flip the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Right.
People are historically have always been willing to turn on their leaders. You know what I mean? Mussolini was that dude in Italy, right?
Yeah.
El Duce. You know what I mean? They loved him. But by the end of it, he was hanging from his toes at the gas station.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if you don't, you can promise bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't deliver on it, once you've been given the power, eventually people are going to be like, okay, you said the bread was coming Monday, and then you say some shit like, I ain't say which Monday.
Yeah.
Right? And people never get their shit.
Yeah.
Eventually they're going to, come with pitchforks and fire. You know what I mean? And that's just human history. We've always done that.
Yeah.
Revolutionary War, right? I draw this parallel all the time. They went to war over 3% taxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the most powerful naval and human history, navy in human history, right? Yeah. England controlled 1/3 of the Earth's landmass at the time, right? We talking about a bunch of ragtag colonies, right? Farmers mainly, who said, "Fuck this, we going to war."
Right.
I don't know. Call France.
Yeah.
Figure it out. We just gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, people will be like, "Enough is enough." Especially when they have nothing. You know what I mean? When people have nothing to lose, right? Everything's been stripped of them. That thin veneer between being a human and being an animal gets crossed. Yeah. That's how we got Nazi Germany.
You ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Shit.
You should, dude. You honestly
I like
fucking
to just
should.
hop on people's shit.
Yeah.
I do.
It's much nicer that way. But, dude, I feel like if you had one, bro, that shit would go off fast.
Hey, that shit
you got a lot of shit to say, man. That's fucking awesome.
I mean, that's part of why I do the protesting thing is I'll speak there. You know,
so,
the people that want to hear.
I just want to say really quick, because I want to have some fun with you guys.
Yeah,
so where can people get in touch with your organization? Where can they find that? And how do they get news about what you got going on?
So we have our Instagram page and a Twitter page. We're working on the website right now.
And what's it called?
Black Outreach.
Okay.
So it's blackoutreach.sj for
nice.
both.
Cool.
That's our email too. Or you can go through my page, Loudimes, on everything.
Oh yeah.
You can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think whatever you're doing is fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah,
all that
on,
you're doing,
on.
not whatever you're doing. All that you're doing is great. I think it's sick.
Right on.
One thing I want to say while we're on the subject is that the political parties that be have done an excellent job of getting people to think that what the federal government does, like day to day, affects your life a lot day to day. And I think from my experience, my day to day is not really affected by whoever is president or whoever's this. Like when you wake up in the morning and you have stuff to do and you have a job and you have whatever, your day to day is not affected by that shit. And I think the media has done an amazing job of making you think that it matters a lot. Yeah. And like that's this whole thing with this anti-Trump movement. And I'm very apolitical, by the way, but the whole like anti-Trump movement. And now there's this like we have Joe Biden on the other side and all this stuff going on. Like when it's all said and done, like how much is your life really going to change depending on who gets elected? One thing I wanted to ask you. So I've obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, but I think it would be obvious that I've never really personally experienced any type of racism. Like, you know, I've had people, because I hang out with a lot of black people and I do a lot of music stuff. And so I've had people call me a white boy and stuff like that, but it's not racist. Like, It's fucking funny. And I'm just wondering, have you, in your life, like, have you seen any escalation in terms of like racial tensions in the last during Trump or during Obama or during whatever? Like, have you seen it get worse, get better? Is it the same? Have you experienced it equally your whole life? Like, tell me your thoughts on it.
I think it's always kind of depended on where you're at, and during time certain things fluctuate, right? So like when we were little kids, Like when you're a child, right? Like I'm from Detroit originally, but when I was 6, I moved to, my mom taught at Penn State, so I lived in central Pennsylvania. A lot of times I was the only black kid, right? But that's something I wasn't really readily aware of all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I wasn't made to feel like that.
But that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I rarely was ever made to feel like that. There are certain things that happened in my schooling, right, that my mom would notice because she's older, right? There's certain things you just kind of don't realize, you know? Those are like the gray areas, you know what I mean, of like racism, right? Like versus the antebellum South, like open racism, right? Like where you go down South and it's like, hey, nigga, you know what I mean? Like whereas like that, like Jeez. I haven't personally, like I haven't lived down South to where I've like seen that. I know that it's like that in certain areas. Yeah. Right. But I mean, living in Pennsylvania, like I saw a KKK rally, but at the time I didn't know what it was at that age. Like I didn't know what I was looking at. Yeah. And honestly, like when I moved out here to California, I think the way I saw racism or like prejudice, I don't like to call everything racism because I you know, there's the two separate terms. I think you know, racism is the system of oppression, right? And then prejudice is this, you know, predisposition that I think less of, or I think you're gonna be a certain way just because of what I see. Right. You know what I mean? And I think when I moved out here, I saw kind of a lot more like very subtle prejudice, which sucks, right? As opposed to the open shit. The open shit, right? You could pull out your phone and be like, shut up, Karen. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? And it's like, people could be like, oh, that's fucked up. Yeah. But then there's the really subtle, like smaller shit that is harder to point out to someone who's not black, right? That like, hey man, you know that was because you're black, right? You know what I mean? Like just little, like, you know, like I've had out here, like I've walked up, my phone's dead. I've walked up to a lady, tried to ask her a time, she ran away, thought I was about to, you know what I mean? Yeah. Something like that. And you know, or I had on some funny shit, this really happened, but like I had a lady ask me to help her pick out a watermelon. Right. And at the time, right, I didn't think about it, but then I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
Oh, she just thought you knew your shit on watermelons.
Like, and I'm mad because I picked it up. I'm like, yeah, shit, take this one. And I didn't even know what the fuck I was talking about. It's just because she asked me.
I hope it was a bad one too.
No, it was this old lady.
No. I hope the watermelon was
I thought
bad.
you meant like she was bad. I'm like, nah, she was old. She was probably cool in the younger days.
Wait, I have a question for you really quick. So on Twitter a couple days ago, one of my friends posted she responded to a tweet by some black girl. The black girl tweeted like, people that aren't black who use the words like lit or chill or whatever the slang is. She said that if you're not black and you use words like that you're racist. What do you think about that?
I think that's a little extra.
Yeah, that's what I thought at the same time.
I think okay, so like that's extra, right? Anybody could.
That's really
you
reaching.
Know what I mean, that's reaching, right?
Yeah.
I think you can only draw that line with the N-word, right? Really. But, you know, saying shit like, I think what happens is, right, for black people is it bothers a lot of us, right? And it's something I've been able to, you know, look past, and you have to take it situationally, right?
Right.
So it's like there are a lot of things that black people have been persecuted for, made fun of, right? You know what I mean? For doing, right? And so then to see somebody else do it, and it's all of a sudden cool, it's like, well, what happened, right? Yeah. So when black people see someone like Catch Me Outside, how about that, right? Yeah. It's like she's famous for talking like she's from the hood. Yeah. But I know a bunch of girls that talk like that and are funny.
Or you probably know like girls that are from the hood who don't talk like that. So
exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like that's where it becomes, or like even like black women specifically, you know what I mean? I don't want to say sensitive, but feel a way about their hair, right?
Right.
Because
I was going to ask you about this.
Right? When you see someone else get braids or like dreadlocks,
that's
or
not black.
Like that's not black. The part of the anger is that it's the persecution aspect. Like black women's hair was illegal in America. They had to. That's why a lot of when you see the head wraps, right? They had to cover their hair. That was law. You know what I mean? Or even to work in the public space, like you had to have your hair straightened, right? Our natural hair wasn't allowed, right? So then we had to do shit like buy wigs and weave and dye, you know what I mean? And change basically to you know,
Change
assimilate into this Western world.
To fit into the community.
Yeah.
Bullshit, yeah.
Right. That's why you see, you know, swinger singers from back in the day, they got butters in their hair, you know what I mean? Like got the like, you know what I mean? So it's like, so that's where the kind of the sensitivity about that comes. It's like, so where I understand why it's not like it's braids, it's just braids, or like it's just dreads, you know what I mean? But it's that feeling of like, why do I get made fun of for it and persecuted for it, and then someone else can do it and it's stylish and it's cool and it's a fashion thing.
I think my opinion on the subject is that there's a certain, like, it's almost like reverse racism in a way. There's a certain fetishization of black people.
Sound it out.
Fetishization.
Fetishization.
There you go.
There's a fetishization of black people to the point where, like, I've seen a lot of white dudes that want to be friends with black people really bad. And to me, it's like, that's a little bit weird, because isn't that that's in itself a little bit racist, because they want to be friends with these black people. They assume like a certain thing about them, or that'll give them some like clout or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And I think in a sense that sort of like weaves into this idea of cultural appropriation versus appreciation versus all these different things that are happening. And it's like interesting when I see white people that change the way they speak depending on who they're speaking to. Yeah. And this happens with everybody.
That's I can see that versus
You know?
what people when people use words like lit or bet or whatever.
Yeah. The thing is, I use those words
So do I.
normally.
But I'm not saying I'm saying with
But
like
I think
that.
that's like Bay Area, like that's just, you feel me? It's it's like you could be talking to me in your regular voice and be like, "Oh, dude, that's lit." But if you were to be like, "Man, that's lit," you know what I'm saying? Like I'd be like,
come on, bro.
Yeah, it's like what?
Or like I'm a bartender, like server, you know what I mean? I've been doing that for a couple years now. So like when I would, at a certain point it's just like funny and I don't care, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I would notice sometimes when like you know, like it would be like an older white dude and he'd be like, "Thanks, brother," you know what I mean? And I'm like,
sound like Dave Chappelle right there.
Friend, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not a big deal. You know? I think it's kind of funny because things like that are like the innocent things that are just kind of like, come on, bro.
Yeah,
you
like
know
you can
what I mean?
you kind of read the room and you're like, that guy's not trying to be an asshole or anything. You know, it's like, but when it's like repetitive, you're like, all right, what are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
But when you said, I don't know if it's racism, because I feel like a lot of people, like I used to have like a handful of black friends when I was in high school, and I was just like, not that I was like, I need to be their friend or anything, but I would like be their friend, and I'm Mexican, but I'm like the whitest Mexican you know, and I'd be like, I mean, I'm friends with these guys, but I never thought like anything was different between having a white friend or a black friend. I was like, that's just how it is. And then, but what I think when you say like people who like really want to be friends with like black people, I'm like, maybe they just want to be like, we're not all assholes to black people. Maybe like in along those lines.
Yeah, I understand that too. Of like, dang, I don't have any black friends. Maybe I should have some. I get that.
Yeah,
it's the same thing for me. Like I'm from Detroit originally. You know, like. You know how you said like you're white Mexican, but like I went to school in Central Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? So I was around a bunch of white. So you know what I mean? I listened to Yellow Card and Green Day and shit. You know what I mean? Like, or like after that I moved to Italy. You know what I mean?
Okay. Did you really?
Yeah, I lived in Italy for like 4 years.
No way.
Age 9 to like 14.
No shit.
That's super
14.
That's crazy. How was that, dude?
It was dope.
Did you move there with just your parents or?
Yeah, just with my mom.
Nice,
my mom's a professor, so she taught in Rome over there.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah, it was dope.
Fucking A. That's a probably game changer of a lifestyle.
It was. I love Italy.
Yeah.
Still hella love Italian culture. I
that's
mainly
sick.
only eat Italian food.
Really?
Like, yeah.
You just
shout out to the home country, baby.
Hey,
that's me.
Right? That's also why we why we used to vibe on that too. You know what I mean? It was Harry too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know Harry was just here. I didn't
For
see
real?
him, but he was here for his brother was supposed to get married. I don't know if he did because of the smoke and stuff, but he was here.
Oh,
I was trying to hit him up. Yeah.
I think I saw him in in like Johnny's post or something. He was in somebody's post.
He was on
just
Michael
had a beard.
Thompson's
That's who
yeah.
Wet Clutch Plug, dude.
Wet Clutch Plug.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Where'd you bartend at before COVID?
I was a bartender at True Food Kitchen in
Where's
Palo
that?
Alto
Okay.
at Stanford Mall and at Meso. Mediterranean in San Jose.
Okay.
Which is part of like LB Steaks family. It's like Mediterranean food.
Have you had any shitty or crazy ass experiences doing that? Like any like people just being assholes to you? Not even for any like racial reason, just like in general.
You know what's crazy on some racial shit with it? Like
oh shit.
And I haven't had really any racist experiences bartending or serving. I feel like honestly, this is gonna sound weird, but like there's kind of some black privilege with that shit, and that a lot of times people are like I'm kind of lighthearted, you know what I mean? But like a lot of times people would see me, I'm like 6'3", you know what I mean? So they'd be nice. Like not to brag or anything, but it's just like a lot of times people wouldn't bother me, and I would see them do some crazy shit to like another server and like be like, you know what I mean? Like not be fucked up to me at all.
Yeah. They're intimidated by you probably.
Yeah. I think the worst thing that ever happened, and it wasn't even that bad, like she was actually really nice. But Meso, the restaurant I worked at, is like it's fancier, you know what I mean? And this cop, it was a lady cop. She had her retirement retirement party there, and her friends were like restaurateurs, like feel me, they owned restaurants in the area, like so super wealthy people. They had like a cake for this whole setup and everything, and like they took great care of me. Like they tipped me hella well. Like they were all really cool.
Hell yeah.
But they were telling me like before she got there, like, yeah, you know, she was in the force for like 35 years, blah 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 blah. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, for sure, cool, right? And you know what I mean? I treat everybody the same, you know what I mean? So I'm like, you know what I mean? We're serving, you know what I mean? So I'm taking her, or I'm talking to her, I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm like, yeah, like so you're retired? And she was like, yeah, but I could still beat your ass. And I was like, like, she probably didn't mean anything by it, but in my head, I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's like, it's a little triggering. It's like, please don't. Like, you know what I mean?
That's like confidence.
I think all the funny shit is like the Tinder dates.
Yeah.
Oh God,
really?
That should be hilarious.
Really? That's like what this podcast revolves around, our Tinder and Bumble stories.
Oh
my God. We talk about that shit all the time. All right, give me the best one. In terms of what, though? What do you got?
Okay, so so check this out. So I'm a bartender, right? This is at True Food. Should I say? I don't give a fuck.
I can bleep it all out.
Nah, you're good. You're good. So I'm bartending at True Food, right? And this dude, he's there, and like he's hella trying not to drink. He's like getting lemonades and shit. And it's this older dude, right? And this girl he was supposed to meet up with, she comes, right? And you know, they're sitting there at the bar, and she's kind of not feeling him and shit, right?
Ooh, how old we talking? How old is the dude?
Dude is maybe like
50s, 40s?
Like,
don't say 60s.
He's like in his, like, he looked like Gary Busey. Like,
I don't even know who that is.
You don't want to.
Yeah. Okay.
But
old.
Nah, he wasn't. Okay, he wasn't Gary Busey bad. Gary Busey looked like that. Like hurt. But he was maybe in his like late 50s. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, shit.
Like had the island. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
And
Baldwin.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And she was just cool. You know what I'm saying? She was a cool girl. You know, white girl. You know what I mean? Little ass on her. You know what I'm saying? Like
she's trying to look for a sugar daddy or something.
I think so. Off top,
probably,
right?
Yeah.
But dude was for sure a creep. Like she's drinking. He's telling me on the low, like, hey, just give me a lemonade. I'm like,
oh shit.
Oh, you won't.
What's going on here, buddy?
Like, okay, Bill Cosby, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But she kept like flirting with me, right? And I'm like, oh, right. And eventually, like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to mind my business, but I'm not. So I'm like turned around, like making some bullshit I don't need to make, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of listening. She's like, no, like I just like I'm not really hearing, but she's like, no, like you know you fucked up. And he like goes to the bathroom, right? And then she asked me, she's like, hey, she's like, what time are you off? I'm like, shit.
Here we go.
Like 11:45, right? And so she's like, okay, I'm gonna wait for you. I'm like, oh, right, the show.
Yeah.
And so she's hella flirting with me more and shit. He comes back. He ends up leaving. He's hella hot. That dude ended up coming back there all the time, like head hunting, weirdo.
Oh yeah.
But,
he left pissed.
Yeah, he left pissed.
Yeah.
Right. So the restaurant closes and I'm like, yeah, you can't be in here, but if you still want to wait, like it's good. And she's like, okay, I'll wait. I told this girl,
like 11:30. I didn't get out till like 12:45. She still waited.
Right, so I'm talking. I go outside. She's out there. I'm like, what the fuck? I expected her to be gone. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Hey. And she's like hella drunk. She's hella on one. And I'm like, she's not hella drunk. Like, she's cool to, like, you know what I mean? Like,
know what's going
like,
on.
Yeah, because I think she
Coherent.
only had, like, 2 margaritas. You know what I mean? And, she had 3 margaritas. But she
Strong
was cool.
margaritas that you made.
Yeah, that part. So, you feel me? She's like, oh, like, who do you live with? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I got a roommate. I got 2 roommates, actually, but one of them's not at home. And she's like, she's like, oh, cool. Like, she was like, we can all have some fun. I'm like,
what?
I'm like, all of us? Like me, you, and him? I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And she was like, I was like, what if we took turns?
Oh my
and
god!
Then she was like, yeah. She was like, for sure. And I was like,
she's drunk. She's got that tequila in her, dude. When girls drink tequila, dude, they do not give a fuck.
Everybody drink tequila.
That's actually facts. That's my
Straight
choice.
up.
I'm actually drinking tequila later, so we'll see what happens then.
Me too. Straight up.
Hell yeah.
Man, so it'll get crazy, bro. So it don't get that crazy, but so I'm like, I got some trees. She's like, I don't really smoke. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna smoke. Yeah. Right. So she's like, well, let's get a bottle. I'm like, all right. So we go to Safeway, get a bottle. I'm like, all right. I gave her some money, and she went in the Safeway to get the bottle. Right. I pull out my phone, I call my roommate. I'm like, nigga. My bad. I'm like, nigga. Let me tell you what's about to happen. I'm like, bro, are you at home? He's like, yeah. I'm like, shower. He's like, why? I'm like, got this girl. She about to come over. She down to fuck me. She down to fuck you. He's like, what? I'm like, bro, yes. He's like, you're lying. I'm like, bro, I swear to God, she just told me she in there right now. She getting some liquor right now. It's on. It's good. Shower. Roll yourself a joint. Let's go. Right. He's hella geeked. Right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what a fucking roommate you are, dude. Holy shit.
I thought I was the plug, right? I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great, right? So we get to the house. Swear to God, my roommate's in the living room on the couch like this, right?
No.
Like this.
Boxers only.
Nah.
A robe.
Ready to go.
He for sure had on like a collared shirt. Like he was ready. He was smoking his joint like this.
Like he just got back home from a night out or something.
Swear to God, he had like a little glass of scotch.
Oh
like,
my
God,
bro,
dude. It was hilarious, right? So I'm like, hey, this is so and so. I forgot her name. That's fucked up.
She's listening.
Probably. I'm like, hey, this is so and so. This is my roommate. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, hey, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, didn't you say like you were gonna twerk for us or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah. She was like, put on some music. So I have the video, I think, still too. Maybe I don't.
It's gonna be on the YouTube video.
So she hella started twerking for us, but it was like we watched these like this dude like I think his name Mark Weens on YouTube that like travels around and like eats food, and like we watch him because he looks hella high, and every time he eats shit he's like, wow. And like it's just mesmerizing to watch. You just wow. Like I just love it. So that shit is on and she's like twerking to that, and so it's just like wow. It's just like
she's twerking. Did you say she had like a little booty on her?
Yeah, you know,
all right,
she had this little skirt that was like way too short. I'm like, in my mind, I'm looking at my roommate.
Was she a white girl?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm looking at, and she was redhead, like it was
nice.
So I'm looking at my roommate like,
we better get it in.
Right. So I'm like, I will never. I'm not rubbing drumsticks with you, bro. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not about to Eiffel Tower, none of that.
I feel
I'm cool. I'm like
rubbing drumsticks.
If you want to go after me, I'm for sure not going right after you. That's off the table. She can have you if that's how it's gonna go. But if that's what it's gonna be, if you don't care, if you nasty, you know what I mean.
When you get priority,
you wouldn't bang a chick
reeled her in.
after one of your
I brought her
boys?
in. You feel me? I did the work. So I'm like, I'm going first. So I take her upstairs to my room. Right. We do our thing. You know what I mean? We do our thing. And
no, I don't know. What'd you guys do?
So I smashed, right? I'm smashing, right? She finished. And
make that clear.
I'm like, that part, right? I'm like, Like, yeah, you know, you can go in the shower, feel me, wash yourself off, shit like that. He downstairs.
He's been ready.
Right. And she's like, what do you mean he's downstairs? I'm like, you know, feel me?
Oh, no.
I'm like, you know what I mean? You know how after you nut, you kind of like,
You're
don't
like,
give a fuck about shit. I'm
yeah.
like, you know he out there. Here. I'm like, here. She's like, I'm naked. I'm not going out there. I'm like, he know you gonna be naked. I feel like that would be sexier. She's like, no, I'm not. She's like, I'm not gonna fuck your roommate.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
but you said that you was gonna fuck my roommate. I'm like, what happened? She was like, no, like, but she was like, if you want to like hang out, like, we can put on another, because I put on a movie. I always put on some bullshit that I don't really want to watch.
Background noise.
Yeah. I always put on horror movies, but like shitty Netflix horror movies.
Yeah, dude.
Because sometimes I want to look up, like, is this bitch dead? Like, shit like that. You know what I mean? So I had that on. She was like, you know, we could put on another movie. She like wanted to put on, I think, Lincoln, right? The Lincoln movie. I've been trying to watch that, but I never want to watch it with a girl because I like want to watch it. You know what I mean?
Wait, hold on. Why did she want to watch Lincoln specifically?
Because she saw it on my continue watching. She was like, you want to watch that? And I'm like, not with you, bitch. You know what I mean? And so she was like, yeah, like we could watch Lincoln. And I'm like, that's when you say some bullshit. You're like, I got to get up early to pick up my roommate from the airport
right
in Oakland.
And then she leaves
at 3 a.m.
That's what you say to get them to leave that night.
Yeah. I'm like, you good?
Yeah.
I'll get you a Uber.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like Uber. Get you a Lyft.
Get you a cab, whatever. I'll call your homegirl, whatever. I'll get anybody just to get you out of my house.
Like, please. Like, my roommate's going to be furious.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't never, he was so sad. I had to go downstairs and be like, bro, so check this out.
She's
you
not
guys
down.
want to know a crazy story?
Yes.
When I was in college, this is an interesting time in my life, but I was there, and I had slept with this one girl when I was a freshman, and she, it turns out, had slept with like half the fraternity, but I didn't know this at the time. So I found out afterward, and then from that point on, I was like, I'm not gonna mess with her anymore, or whatever. Fast forward like a year and a half, and
you have herpes.
My buddy, dude, I'm fucking hammered at this point. I never got herpes, by the way. I actually made it out of college all good, but that's a different story.
Yeah,
but so we go back to this. We're at this party, and my buddy's there. And my buddy's like, okay, let me put it this way. He and I are still friends, but I don't talk to him all that often because he's kind of a fucking maniac. In a good way, but he's kind of a maniac. So he comes over to the party, and he comes up to me, and he goes, hey, that's the girl that has 3 ways, right? And I was like, I think so. She slept with like half the fraternity, so I'm assuming she would do a 3-way. He's like, no, I know 2 guys that did it. And I was like,
you're like 2.
I was like, okay. He's like, listen, buddy, listen. This might be the only time in your whole life that this is acceptable. Do you want to do the 3-way? And I was like, and I was looking at him, and he really fucking wanted to do this thing because he wanted to be a fucking savage. He was all fucking, we were all on drugs
Drugged
and
out,
shit. Yeah.
Coked up.
And and he looks at me, and I looked at him, and I saw it in his eyes, and just for the pure, like, this is my boy, and I'm just looking at him, I'm like, listen, for you, I would do it.
Let's rock.
And he goes, all right, fuck yeah, let's do it. So I go outside, and I see the girl, and she's kind of standing with her girlfriends, and me and him walk up. She knows him a little bit. Obviously, she knows me, so we start talking, and then it gets to a point where the cops show up to the party, and we end up going to the backyard, and we're in the backyard, and we're laying down on the grass, and I'm trying to figure out a way to maneuver this situation. So she's in the middle, and I'm sitting on one side, and then he's sitting on the other side, and we're like talking to her back and forth, and she starts making all these like kind of little moves towards him and me, and I'm thinking, fuck for my boy. And I'm still kind of like, dude, at the end of the day, like I don't really want to do this, but fuck it for him, I'll do it. So the cops leave, and then literally as she's doing this whole flirting thing, she goes, I'm gonna call this an Uber. And I was like, okay. So she calls the Uber. The Uber shows up, and then she grabs me by the hand and looks at him and goes, you're going to have to find a ride home, and throws me in the Uber. And I get in the Uber, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm fucked up at this point. So I'm sitting in this Uber like this, and I don't really realize what's happening. She gets in the Uber, closes the door, and we start driving away immediately. I'm like, what's going on here? So she took me back to her place, and my buddy's like fucking pissed. And I'm pissed too. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't even want to do this.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want to do it with him.
I didn't want to do it to begin with, but yeah, especially. But anyway, so then we get back to her place, and she's like, "Oh my God, I want you like right now." Like, and she gets on the bed, she gets naked and shit, and I literally looked at her, and I was like, "I'm not doing this."
Oh,
and I fucking walked out,
dude.
and I walked home. Like
That's
2
one of
miles
my
home.
goals to do
And
that.
on that walk home, I just had this like come to Jesus moment where I was like, "What the fuck was I gonna get myself into?"
I cannot, dude. I don't think I have the strength for that, bro. If a girl took me to her place and she was like, "Let's do this," regardless of anything involving her history, I'd be like,
I had
okay.
to think about it for a second. I'm
Let's
not gonna
do it.
lie to you, but yeah, dude, it was a fucking crazy story.
Yeah, that's the worst
That's
though.
hilarious.
When
I know your roommate was pissed.
He was
He
so
probably
mad.
cried.
I got
Or
back
not
to
your
the.
roommate,
I
your
think he
boy.
probably did cry. I got back to
He
the
probably
house.
cried.
I got back to the house and he didn't even want to talk to me for the rest of the night. I was like,
Oh,
dude,
he was your
I was like,
roommate.
dude, yeah. I was like, dude, come smoke this joint with me, man. Like, it's gonna be okay. Like, I was like, I didn't do it, and he was like, well, you should have. You fucking wasted it. And I was like,
Wasted
like,
it.
bro, what the fuck?
It's like it's not a 7-Eleven sandwich. You talking about wasted?
Oh, my God.
dude. Yeah, I've never been fortunate enough to be in a threesome position, but at the same time, when I think about it, I don't really think I would want to do it. Like, I just think it's weird. I'm more of like
Dude,
the
What about
one-on-one.
with 2 girls though?
There we go.
I did okay.
I've done that. I did
but
that
it
one
was with
time.
2 cougars in Santa Cruz.
No fucking way.
That's another Tinder story.
Oh
That's
shit! You
feel
picked
me?
them up on Tinder? Were they one of those that came together on Tinder?
no.
Ooh.
Okay, so black dudes get fetishized. Yeah, I use that to my advantage sometimes. This was when I was like 22. I want to say
Yeah.
no. It was right after Us came out.
Okay.
Yeah, around
that
then.
movie,
Yeah,
Us?
around then.
Yeah, so which is why it freaked me out that night because that movie's in Santa Cruz, right? So I'm on Tinder. I like this cougar had like hit me up before, and I'm like, well, whatever, bitch. You live in Santa Cruz. Like I'm not getting on the 17 for no pussy.
Yeah,
I'm cool. I'm not doing that. You can come up here to society, and then
Society.
so like eventually one night I was like bored and she hit me up and she's like, hey, like I have my friend here, like I showed her your picture, like she thinks you're really cute, and I'm like I'm like I told her, I'm like, I've been kind of drinking, like I don't really want to drive on the 17, it's dangerous, you feel me? She's like, well, you could take a Uber, you know what I mean? And I looked at how much it would cost. It was like $42.19.
That's
some
not
bullshit
bad.
like that. I was like, that's $84 both ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like, we'll pay for like 60 of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so spend $20, get a threesome. Like that's all right. That's a solid deal. Like that's
deal.
you know what I
That's
mean?
a discount.
That's a double weed. Like
Yeah.
I got that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right, for sure. So I tell my roommate, I'm like, this is the same roommate too. I tell him, I'm like, bro, I'm about to go and have this threesome with these 2 cougars in Santa Cruz. If you don't hear back from me in a couple hours, them bitches kill me, right? You know what I'm saying? And so,
A get out situation.
yeah, like straight up, I was like worried, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
You know? And so I get in the Uber driver. He's like, hey, how's your night going? I'm like, man, hopefully
It's about to be
good,"
something.
You know what I mean? And so I get there, right? And the lady, she opens the door, right? The main one. She's like, hey. I'm like, hey. You know
How old we talking? Late 30s?
51 and 53.
What? What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's a real one right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Dude.
So fucking.
Let's go.
Bro, it get crazy. Yo, it was dope. So look, she brings me in. She's like, yeah, my friend, she's just in the shower. She's getting ready. You know what I mean? They got on like, they some old hoes. So like they, you know what
Lingerie.
I mean? Like they got like, they're professionals. You know what I mean? So she got like the silk bullshit, like
Yeah.
the long flowing that like
That
drag on
mature
the ground
women.
and shit. I'm like, oh, I'm for sure gonna die, but like,
Oh,
it's
dude.
probably gonna be lit. You know what I mean? Like,
Go out with a bang.
right?
Fuck it.
Like my story gonna be dope. If they put it
Yeah.
on camera, I'll be like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll get a movie, feel me. Donald
Yeah.
Glover will play me. It'll be lit. You know what I mean?
Donald Glover.
And so I'm like, all right, for sure. And she's like, do you want like any beer? We have weed. I'm like, oh, I got my own weed. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take a beer. You know what I'm saying? And so we like outside, right? They take me outside. It's a fat ass house.
Nice.
They take me outside. We're on the patio. she's like massaging me and shit, right? She like holding the blunt for me.
What,
You know what I mean?
dude?
Hitting for me and shit.
Treating you
And
like
then
a king.
bro, like a king, right? And so then we go inside. The other one, she comes out. I'm like, oh, bet. It's like fucking 2 teachers. It was lit. So I'm like, hey, like, how you doing? She's like, oh, hi. She's like, well, no, like, low-key is terrible, but she's like, oh, hi.
Smoker voice.
Yeah, like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, this is hi. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like such a young motherfucker. I'm like, and so I'm like laying down. They got the bunch of grapes. You know what I mean? They're like,
No.
For real?
Swear to God, I was like,
Oh
bro,
my
I'm
God.
like, nobody's gonna believe me when I tell them this shit. I'm like, no one's gonna believe me, but I have to remember all of this because it was lit. So they feed me the grapes and shit, but this is where she is silly, right? So, feel me? I'm a big toker, right? You know what I mean? My weed's strong. So, one of them, right? I'm smashing on one of them, right, in the bed. The other one, she said she like felt like nauseous, right, from the weed. You know what I mean? And she's like, the one I'm smashing on, she's like, just do some yoga over there while we do our thing. And
Yoga.
like, you know what I mean? So I'm like smashing this chick, and then the other one's like doing like upward dog, downward dog and shit on the side, and she's like, oh, I just,
Oh my
she's
God,
like,
dude.
she was like, that cheesecake,
She was on a different planet.
bro. She was gone, right? And the one I'm smashing, she was like, oh, this is a young one. She's like, you gotta try this out, right?
Oh
and
my
she's like,
God.
I'm like, wow, I'm really like a sex object right now. This is crazy. This is lit.
Yeah.
Right?
They should have paid you.
Right. I'm like, we'll get to that. Right.
Okay.
So check this out. So she's like, oh, like I just feel so like sick. Like I I feel that got me way too high. Like, what did you put in that weed? I'm like, just weed. You know what I mean? And the one I'm smashed on, she was like, well, try and have them fuck it out of you.
Oh my God.
And I'm like this. You know, when you laying down, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, we can try that.
You're
I'm like,
just
that sounds
sprawled out.
like bullshit.
Sprawled out on the bed, just butt ass naked. 2 50-year-olds.
Yes,
The
bro.
life.
God.
Bro, so I'm like, I'm down to give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right?
I would. If,
So she's on the yoga mat, right? I get down there, I'm trying to smash her. And she's like, she's feeling it, right? You know, she's like, but like, I'm like, I don't know if your head hurt or what's going on.
Yeah.
yeah.
And like, she's like, you know them response noises
Yeah.
that we look for, right? I'm
Yeah.
getting those. And then she's like, wait, I'm so lightheaded. She's like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. I'm like, well, don't do that. Don't do that on me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh no, that fucking noise.
Yeah, bro. I'm like, nope. Thank you. I'm cool. Right? And so
Comedy, dude.
I go
Comedy.
back to the
Let's go, dude.
I got you. I go back to the other one. And so I left that night. I'm like, there's no way I'm sleeping here.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
So I leave, right? The next day she hits me up, the one that was sick, and she's like, hey, like I feel so bad. Like, I'd love for you to come by another time and we can finish business. I'm like, for sure. And she was like, hey, well, to incentivize you a bit, like I have this weed. I'm getting a divorce from my husband, and I have this weed that he grew, and I just need to get rid of it. I've just been sitting on it. I was like, remember the black dude from Holes?
Yeah.
I was like, I could fix that.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I got you.
I can fix that.
Right. Did the
Dude,
hat thing. I'm like,
yeah.
I can fix that. So
God damn
I'm
it.
like, hell, I'll get on the 17 for that. I get in my car. You feel me? I'm straight down there, right? She gives me like 2.5 pounds of weed.
What?
Straight up.
Holy
fuck.
shit.
She
That's a
was
come
like,
up.
do you think you can help me sell it? Like I need you know what I mean? Like I need to get rid of it. And like it was kind of old, you know what I mean? But she was like, if you just give me like $100, I'm like,
That's cool.
I
Hell yeah.
You want
Sounds like
what
something
you
I
want?
could
Bitcoin? Cash
do.
App? Venmo?
Bitcoin.
What you want? You know what I mean? So that shit flipped it. I haven't seen them since. I never.
When was this? Oh,
This
you said
was-
22, right?
Yeah, like
a couple years
2018,
ago. Yeah.
2019. Yeah, like 2018, I
Yeah.
think.
That's
Goddamn.
fucking
That shit
hilarious.
was wild.
That's the
fucking
best
hilarious.
transaction I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, dude.
And
That's
it
a
only
good ass
cost
story.
me
$20.
$20.
They gave
That's
you
what's up.
60.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's what's up.
Goddamn, boys. All right, I have somewhere to be.
All right, for sure.
But hey, guys, I just want to say I appreciate you guys coming on. I'm sorry we didn't get to smoke that on
No,
here.
I'm actually glad that we're not smoking
Okay, cool.
on the camera. But if you want to smoke this weed
I'm
with
with
me,
it. I'm
Luke,
with it.
good to meet you, man.
Hey, yeah. Hell
And
yeah,
I appreciate
bro.
everything that you're doing.
We'll definitely link up, y'all.
Yeah, dude.
do
bro.
this
We'll have to
again.
get on another episode once everything opens back up again. Whenever
Oh,
the
yeah.
fuck that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm with it.
Wyatt, good to have you on for the third time.
thank you, my bro.
And Juices, I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Catch you on the next one. Peace.